Welcome to the H12 Prep Baseball Report. I'm Ramon Scott, and I'm joined as always by Dave Dickens of EastCountySports.com. And joining us here in the studio, breaking news, the Santana Sultans moving along in the playoffs. They won today at Granite Hills. Seniors Josh Oedewaldt, senior T.C. Simmons. We had to get these guys off the dinner table. They were celebrating the victory, but it's not over yet, Dave. This is the game ball from today's game, 4-3 victory over the Granite Hills Eagles, and the Sultans. They can lose a game still and win the championship. We're going to dwell on that, but they're the hottest team in the county right now.
Well, remember I told you at the beginning of the season there were two teams to look out for. I don't know which podcast it was, but it was the first or second podcast. I said, look out for Santana and look out for Granite Hills. And talking to James Davis at the beginning of the season, he said, well, I don't know. We have Hazelhurst, but our pitching is suspect. We do have plenty of offense. And then as far as talking to Coach Ledesma, he said, the jury's really not out yet. I'm not sure, but I just know that my kids are going to give 150%, and we're going to win some key ball games. And I'll tell you what, I think some people owe me some lunches.
I'll gladly do that. But Josh, I spoke to you earlier in the season, and the Sultans were mired in a little bit of a losing streak, and I had my concerns about what this team could accomplish. We knew we were in Division I, where all the teams make the postseason, but could the Sultans defend their co-championship in the Grossmont Hills League? And you kind of shrugged it off and said, well, we're going to go out there and have some fun this year. Maybe it's the fact that you guys were so loose. It didn't work out in league play, but right now it's all paying off. Tell me about the game against the Eagles today and the momentum you guys have going into the fourth round of the playoffs.
Well, it always hasn't been, the straightest path to victory with us. It's been definitely a roller coaster ride. The start of the season was really rough. Throughout the middle of the season was really rough. League was decent, but every game that we've played, it has been a nail biter, and it has been. I haven't remembered a game where it's been like a blowout.
This has been fun.
It's been fun. Every game has been fun, and every game has been competitive, and that's what we want. And in the end, it always comes down to
the last out.
The last out, yeah.
Well, sure. It prepares you for games like this, TC. I'm going to mention what happened today real quick. Third win of the week, if you will. You had to win that play-in game, and you beat the top-seeded Granite Hills Eagles right here on the Eagles' home turf, 4-3. Senior Landon Wood.
Yes.
He did it again, Dame. And Ryan Jagger came on to pick up another save. He's done that two big games now. He's come in and got that last out when the Eagles had the tying and winning runs aboard with 2 outs in the 7th inning. So that was huge. Josh, you had an RBI. Senior Brandon Glowacki an RBI. Jake Sargent had an RBI as well. You guys were patient today with 9 walks. Exciting, huh?
Yes, very exciting. The pitchers, they actually had good control, but our batters just kept battling and just grinding out at bats, and it was awesome.
And talking about the Glowackis, I should say, plural, how fantastic have they been, Josh, this season?
There's actually a joke. Whenever our coaches came up with this joke, they're brothers, so he calls it the Bro BI. So Bro RBI, the Bro BI. Because Tyler hits before Tyler hits 2 and Brandon hits 3. So whenever Tyler gets on, it's the Bro BI because Brandon has to hit him in. So.
I saw Tyler used to do it as a little leaguer. He was hitting home runs left and right, and everybody knew he was going to be a star. And as good as Brandon has been for this team, TC, Tyler has a chance to be probably one of the best Sultans to ever set foot on the grounds there.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a young talent, and he's got a lot of potential going through his years, and he's gonna be good.
Did they also?
The guy competes his butt off too. You can just see it in his face that
he hates losing.
He wants to win.
That's funny that you mentioned that too. I was going to touch on that real quick since we are where we are right now, live from Granite Hills. You remember the Bro BI as well with the Giles brothers when they were both San Diego Padres. So, and they were just here last night getting inducted into the Granite Hills Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had a nice video from Granite Hills last night. With that ceremony, and it was real neat. I don't know if you saw it, Dave. Trevor Hazelhurst was getting his award from Marcus Giles, who was there. Brian was there as well, but Marcus was the one inducted into the Granite Hills Hall of Fame. And as he presented Trevor his award, he said, nice home run yesterday.
Baseball.
It didn't work out for Granite, but they're going to look forward to a rematch with you guys if they can beat Madison tomorrow. A lot of you may see this webcast after that game. It's 11 a.m. on Saturday. Madison's a pretty good team. Granite Hills is a really good team. I don't want to put you on the spot, TC. You're just going to take whoever comes, right? You don't.
We're not too worried about who we're going to play. We're just going to play our style of baseball, and we can't control the outcome, but we're just going to play loose and just go from there. Dave
and I, we want Granite to win. We want East County teams. We don't mind if we. Josh, how's it? What's the mindset, if you will? You have a game to lose, a game in hand, if you will. If you win one more game, that qualifies you for the bracket final. So that's a great position to be in.
We want to play the best competition ever. Granite has 3 wins over us. We have 2 wins over them. But we're getting ours when it counts most. But I think I'd rather play an East County team just because it's that competitive rivalry that we've always had. So. And we know in football and baseball. So I mean, both guys play both sports, so we've known it for a while.
Yeah, we know we have a game to lose, but our main focus, we need to get that win on Tuesday. We don't want to go back Wednesday and then have to. That just loses pitching and stuff. So we just want to win Tuesday.
One game at a time.
Yeah.
Sure. The if necessary games, we'll say that just so we can inform the fans, are Wednesday, and the D1 final is set for Friday at 5 p.m. We could see Santana in there against a team like Grossmont, who's still alive on the other side of the bracket. Or it could be Granite, but let's be fair. It could be Grossmont. It could be an all-East County. There's a decent chance it could be an all-East County final in Division I, Dave.
It's a win-win for all the East County fans and especially ourselves. We try not to be biased, but at least that gives us 3 shots, correct?
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, Josh had a pretty good career as a football quarterback. I'm sure you know as well.
Absolutely.
You saw him play this year, and he'll go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Santana, a school that's had some pretty good quarterbacks over the years. I think the likes of DJ Bush. They've had some good gunslingers over there. But Josh, you guys had that great playoff run in football. I want to clarify this now because you follow me out here, fans. In 2016, they made it all the way to the division finals where they played La Jolla Country Day. A pretty good game. The Tories were a pretty good team, but that was a great season you guys had in the football program. But then you guys came back and followed it right up, and maybe even more exciting was your playoff run in baseball, where you got all the way to the Division II title game against San Marcos. So what was more exciting to you, that football run or that baseball run?
It's very rare when people in high school get to go to 2 CIF championships in 1 year, and so I was blessed to be able to do that, and it's a year that I'll never forget. So I got to thank all my teammates for that, all the seniors that were there last year.
Well, yeah. Superstar Noah Nunez, for example, in the New York Mets organization.
Yeah, he was a guy that, whenever he was pitching, you had that feeling, just like, we're going to get there.
We're going to win.
We're going to win, He was that confident, he was just that good.
So you got baseball or football?
Let me non-committal on this one.
You know what? He led you into that question. So I was actually going to ask the same thing. I mean, you can plead the fifth, but I mean, do you have a favorite? Josh, if you will, baseball and football? Period.
I'm a physical guy. I like football.
Okay.
Baseball puts you through the motions. It's a game of failure. So it's when you're at your low, you're at your low. It's hard to come up. When you're at your high,
absolutely.
When you're at your high, it's your favorite game.
DC, tell me about that run last year. You guys had some exciting moments. And trip to Fresno, you guys won a tournament up there, and the game against Helix at Petco Park, which at the time we didn't know. I mean, you guys were going to compete for a league title, as everybody in the Hills League thinks they're going to win. But who knew it would come down to you guys and Helix both finishing 9-3. That game at Petco, as exciting as it was, turned out to be an important game in the standings. Tell me about and then the exciting times you had there.
It was awesome. It was a fun time. Going up to Fresno was, I think, a big part of our team bonding. We went to struggle. We lost 6 games in a row, and we didn't really know how things were going to go. But going up to Fresno, kind of set us straight. And then going into league, playing Helix in front of the Petco Park, the atmosphere there was awesome.
Wow.
And getting a W there was a huge momentum factor going into the next part of league.
And turning to this year's team, Josh, who's been stepping up lately in this run? Because like you said, all the games were close. Didn't end up necessarily where we wanted to in the Hills League, but we had those incredible games with Helix this year, where a team that basically was the highest ranked team for most of the season in the East County, and you guys got the best of them, really. I mean, if you look at it, that game where we came back and played that one inning, still, that was a tight one. It was called originally because of darkness. You had to come back and play the one inning. But tell me about some of those games and players.
So the people have been stepping on. TC was our leader on the team, but TC has had not the best senior year. He has gotten hurt multiple times, but TC has never once talked about himself or his injury or nothing to take away from our games he has put on himself. So he's still the leader of the team. Everybody looks for him for energy, and that was just like a huge role that people couldn't fill. Nobody could fill that spot for him. So he's a guy that gets on base. He's our leadoff hitter. He's our guy, our leader of the team, right? So the guy that fills the role, we don't have a guy. We all just want to do it for each other. Nobody wants to play for themselves. Nobody.
That's an interesting
The
contrast.
coaches, nobody. Everybody's in it for the team. That's why we practice so hard and practice so long. That's why this started in the winter.
I think that's an interesting contrast, because you talked about last year, and there was some other good pitching on the team, but when they had Noah on the mound, you felt like you were going to win the game. I think this year, the pitching has been, as good as Landon has been, as Tyler has been, and TC, let's mention,
TC.
where did this come from, TC?
Let's talk about this.
I want to call it a spot start, because maybe you guys felt like, you got in, you got where you needed to be, and now you could afford to lose a game. You've pitched a few innings during the season here and there, mixed results. You came out the other day and turned in your best pitching effort ever, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That was I had a great time out there. My defense backed me up the whole way. They told me to go out there and just do my thing, and just went out there and threw strikes, and just I can't control the results.
Josh, it didn't surprise you, right? You knew he had it in him.
TC doesn't like to talk about himself, so I'm going to talk about him. So, freshman, sophomore, and a little bit junior year, TC tried to pitch, right? I love TC, right? He was horrible, okay? He couldn't throw a strike. He could not throw a strike. And so this year, I'm like, all right, here goes TC, trying to pitch again, right? And he's just like, the whole year he's just been dealing. But he's never came in and pitched like a whole game. He's came in for an inning or two, and he hasn't pitched a whole lot, right? And he got injured, and so that limited his playing time with throwing and catching. And he goes out to the Madison game, right? Starts for us, and I'm like, all right, let's go, TC. Let's see how long this lasts. 110 pitches later, and 6 and 2/3 innings later.
Yeah. And Ryan came in that one. Is that Ryan?
Yeah,
Both games, he got the save on that. So that was a thrilling game as well, Dave. And TC,
so if that doesn't speak selfless for you, and he never talked about himself. He never said, I did this, or this was my game, or this was this, or this was that. He just
there was no doubt that was a great performance.
Now tell me about also this come up. What about Jake Sargent?
He's been. He was up and down throughout the season, and he's really big on confidence. I think he's got his confidence back, and he's playing. He's hitting the ball like crazy. He met Vista, had a home run, he won triple away from the cycle. He's really come up, and he's been huge for us.
Today was a nail biter towards the end, obviously, but man, in the 7th inning, he had 2 or 3 key blocks on pass balls that if he didn't block it, they would have won the game. So.
I would throw a shout out also to another one of your teammates, just because I used to work with his dad. It was a part-time sports writer back in the day. I don't know, 25 or 30 years ago with your dad, Timmy Tisher, his son, a nice infielder who's done a pretty good job this year as well.
Yeah, he's done a great job for us, and just keeping everything in front of him and stuff like that. And when he gets his opportunities at the plate, he's done really well for us. Actually, against Granite, he did really well that game, and he's been great for us.
Timmy's a big team player.
He's huge. He's always got energy, and
he's always got energy.
It doesn't surprise me.
Great kicker too, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
Let's not forget.
I think last year during football season, I think he only had 2 missed PATs, and I think he made almost all his field goals. So.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that TC might get the call again in one of these games. But again, the Sultans, have a little bit of pitching. We had days off here, and our pitching is going to be rested. I mean, the Sultans are in a pretty good position right now, Dave.
Today was huge.
Well, I remember having this conversation with Ramon. I believe it was when maybe the 3rd podcast when we were talking. I think it was right after Helix, the first time you played Helix, and or maybe it was the 5th. At any rate, we were talking about it, and he said, "Now, Dave, I want to know why you keep picking Santana." And I said, "I'll tell you why. They beat Helix and they tied Helix, and watch what you do from there." And here we are today.
Yeah.
I think that didn't that pretty much seal it for you guys confidence-wise that if we can basically beat Helix twice.
We didn't let our preseason determine
dictate
our
how we're gonna play
because it wasn't the best, but we're playing at our best now.
Yeah, guys, there was a couple of players that we didn't touch on yet, especially freshman Davin Burrows went 2 for 3 today. You want to touch on that, Josh?
Yeah, so Davin is, our senior shortstop left last year, so Davin is going to be a stud, basically. He is one of the hardest workers. He just needs a little bit more experience, as a lot of freshmen do, obviously, but he's just a hard worker. He doesn't really get in his own head, which is good when you're playing baseball, obviously, but and he's also a stud soccer player. He's I think after most practices, he has to leave from practice straight to soccer practice, and he practices down in Mission Bay usually. So he usually doesn't go home from the time he leaves school till like 9 o'clock, 9:30 at night. So that's
He flies out every weekend to different states to play soccer.
So that just shows you how hard of a worker he is.
That is a hard worker. And now, changing gears real quick too, because I want to mention one more too, and I'll have you talk about him, TC. How about Benton Hart?
He's been awesome for us. He took on the leadoff spot, and he's been great. He's leading off games. Usually every game he's getting a hit to lead off the game, and on the mound too. He's been our stud. He's going after teams and just really proving himself.
Yeah, I mean, I know I touched on earlier, you can't really replace a guy like TC, but the closest thing we have to is Ben at the leadoff spot.
Yeah,
leadoff is a very, very hard spot to hit, and he's done a great job of that. But he's also a guy on the mound that you just like. He's kind of like Noah from last year.
Yeah, he's going to give you a good outing.
Yeah, you just know that he's going to give you a good outing, and you have a good chance of winning that game.
Last but not least, that we haven't talked about the whole time is the mastermind and the skipper behind the whole.
Do you want to start? Or
We're talking about Rigo?
with our coaching staff?
Or everybody.
Go ahead.
It's been a ride. We have 6 coaches or something like that, 6
lot.
or 7 coaches, and they all not specialized, but they're all doing something different, and they're all.
No, you're not done.
But it's been great though. They're really teaching us not just baseball skills, but life lessons, and just always working hard. Don't always give 110%, and it's been good.
And what's interesting about that is Coach Rigo. Every time I ask that, sorry Rigo, but every time I ask you for a quote, you go directly to the kids immediately. He always deflects. There's nothing wrong with that, but he absolutely, the first thing he does is say, no, it's this player, and you need to speak with them.
So I could talk for hours about our coaching staff. I mean, my dad's been around forever, so he knows a lot of the guys, so I know him through them. But just talk about a few. Coach Vickery, I mean, he's been around
Years.
forever,
Yes.
since the dinosaurs. But no, he knows everybody and he knows everything. He's a coach that just when he talks, all ears are on him.
Yeah.
And so another coach like that is Mark Noble.
Oh, wow.
So Coach Noble, I mean, these two guys go way, way, way back. No offense, Coach, but.
And Dave, go ahead, Josh.
So, Coach Noble has a special place in my heart because I've known him my whole life since I was a baby. And he was my football coach, baseball coach. So we've been through a lot together. A lot of experiences, a lot of, emotions and all that. So, and then Coach Ledesma oh man, just one of the hardest working coaches I think we've ever had. He never gives up. He's always believed in us. Never, ever, ever has said one thing selfish. Always puts the team first. And I couldn't ask for a greater head coach.
Yeah.
Dave, you talked about the Santana coaching tree, and I'm sure you guys felt it a little bit, or maybe you met Coach Jerry Henson, the legendary Santana Sultans coach that passed away this year. Josh, you were a bat boy for Coach Henson, and I mean, he's the kind of coach I imagine that he'd just bring those bats, give you a big hug.
He always had a smile on his face.
I mean, Dave, Coach Henson was one of the greatest coaches in Grossmont Conference history. With the Santana Sultans, many years, and what an influence. And I'm sure that these guys are playing a little bit in the memory of Coach Henson as well this season in this playoff run.
Well,
Right there.
It's funny that it really makes you take a step back and think about the two teams that did play today. If you take a step back and you're talking about Henson, and then a couple of folks that we miss, great people great players from Granite Hills as well. For you guys to be going head to head, I mean, there's a lot of meaning for both teams.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah, it's cool when, like today we played at Granite Hills, and you look out in the outfield and you see
Will's number and the TB also.
You
Sure.
see Trevor and then Will's numbers.
Yeah.
So it's
just good playing in those environments. You're playing not just for your team or for your community. You're just playing. They're in your hearts when you're playing.
Your community.
For everybody. It's awesome.
It's bigger than the game.
Dave, Josh's dad was a pretty good coach over at Helix, a longtime administrator now, and
Long time ago, huh?
coach in the league. Yeah, he was a coach way back. I watched him play. That's how old we are. But
He had to be there with Singer then. He had to be there with Singer.
Well, they had some pretty good teams too. You look back at that team that Larry played on at Helix. They had some pretty good teams when he was a player. Josh, you turned 18 this year, and Dave said, I've got a little funny story here, but you and your dad have played up at Verona in some small buy-in poker tournaments, and I was there one day, and these guys are sitting there at the final table, and Josh busted out 8th, and Larry finished 4th. Poker as life, to me anyway. I mean, I'm a big poker player, I'm a dealer, I know what it's about, and I just wanted to ask Josh, what did you think that the poker is about? Is it about the cards? Is it about the math? Or is it about the people?
I like reading people. That's the fun part, Whether you're trying to bluff people or you're just trying to beat them in general.
I don't do a very good job of it.
Hey, shut up. But, it's just nice getting to read people, and especially when they're right. So
Sure. I mean, that's the thing about that, Dave, that so many athletes relate into sports, and I'll tie another story into this, is that you can have luck go against you. You can make all the right moves, and it still might not go your way. And maybe that's what we saw when I was teasing you about the Sultans ranking this year. Obviously, they have a very good team. But, Josh, another poker player that you've encountered that maybe you didn't know he was such a player was from the La Jolla Country Day Tories, Carson Green, the Stanford-bound baseball player.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because we were sitting at a table one time, right? And this kid, right, like my age, he's my age, he bets like a huge amount, right? So I fold, and he's just totally bluffing, right? Just bluffing me. And so I start talking to him for a little while, and he goes, "Hey, you play at Santana?" I go, "Yeah, how do you know that?" He goes, "Because I played against you in the CIF championship game last year." I go, "The Warrior Country Day?" And he goes, "Yeah, I sacked you." And so, he sacked me in the CIF championship game, and also took all my money up front.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I tell you what, Josh has got a pretty good poker game. I've dealt to him before. Carson Green's he's Stanford bound. He's got a pretty serious poker game too, and he's played in some cash games that I've seen him play some pretty big pots. He knows what he's doing.
He's not afraid to throw some money around, I'll tell you that.
He definitely knows what he's doing, Dave.
But I want to ask you, Ramon, and this is separate from baseball, and this is just a personal question to you, because I don't know if he ever did, and you've known him for so many years, but Did you ever get my dad to come up to Verona and do any gambling?
The only thing we did with your dad and Wanda was go to the buffet.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right.
Yeah, your dad, as great as he was, I don't think he would function at a poker table, quite honestly. I think he'd be a bag full of tells. So, anyways, guys, you know who's still alive in these playoffs? We mentioned not only the Granite Hills Eagles, who have to play Madison, but the Grossmont Foothillers. They beat La Jolla Country Day on Friday afternoon, 9-4. Chris Giovengo, our buddy, hit a home run, and Drew Shervanian bounced back with a nice effort. He got the win with 5 1/3 innings. Gio Gigante, another Little League slugger, if you will, came up with one of his best performances as a hiller. The sophomore drove in 4 runs with a pair of hits. Grossmont built an 8-1 lead in that game. So the Foothillers have no margin for error now after opening the playoffs with a 4-1 home loss to Carlsbad. They need to win.
And boy, was Jordan not happy about that loss. It did come in text form. It didn't have exclamation points, but I got the gist of things because it was very short and sweet. I think about 2 sentences, and I said, well, then, but there's always some heroes from the game we'll talk about next game. And, which is understandable, but I think that both Santana and Granite Hills definitely can't look past the Grossmont Foothillers because they do have quite a few big offensive players, in particular Jesse Garcia for one. I mean, the guy's crushing the ball. And believe it or not, he said that he has used some of Hoppy's free advice. He took some swings in the cage right before a show we did with he and Giovengo. But I mean, they're stacked offensively, and their pitching staff is phenomenal too. I mean, especially when you talk about Jack Hyde heading for USD.
Yeah, he's been great. Yeah.
I mean, when he's got that fastball going, I mean, he's unstoppable.
We'll see. Like I said, it's Grossmont. If they were to get to the finals, they could play either Santana or Granite Hills. There's 2 separate brackets. You play until one team wins that bracket. Those are the teams that meet in the championship game. Let's root for an all East County final.
Absolutely.
We'll have a big show out there next Friday. Dave, meanwhile, the Helix Highlanders went down 2-0 in the open division. The Scotties thought that starting the playoffs at home might be to their advantage, but they lost to powerhouses Cathedral Catholic, and they lost to Eastlake this afternoon, and that's it for the Highlanders. A great season, but it's ended on a short note. Yeah,
but you got to consider, especially with Cathedral. I mean, they have 13 starters or 13 players on their team that are all going to D1 schools or better. I mean, they're already taken off shortly. I mean, in their head. And what do they? I don't know what their ranking is in the county, but they're one of the best teams out there right now.
Yeah. In fact, what happened in that was that Helix and Cathedral, Helix actually finished behind them in the CIF power rankings. But because of one game that they played that Helix beat Cathedral, Helix was elevated to the number 4 position in the open seating, while Cathedral took the number 5 seating. That's why Helix got that home game.
And props to Helix too. I mean, they're great competition. I always love playing against Helix. We've played against them many times. And very fun to play against. Very competitive guys, and also very respectful after the game.
Why do you think, TC, that we excelled more against the Highlanders? I know the breaks of the game. We're playing different opponents. Pitching ends up one way. We got this pitcher. They got that pitcher. Extra focus, extra motivation. Did we want to beat Helix? Why'd you want to beat my Highlanders every time?
Honestly, last year we obviously shared a championship.
Sure.
We know they're great competition, and we know we just want to go out there and win.
I think that's a great point.
TC's right. We're such a competitive team too. We just want to always be the best.
And it's always just fun time playing them.
You always try to be the best, beat the best, right? So.
Sure.
And as you mentioned, and I've heard this from other teams as well, including Granite Hills, talking about even after a loss that Coach Cole Holland runs a class act over there at Helix.
Yeah, he does. He's a great coach.
And I think anybody is fortunate to play for him. I mean, I think he's good for the county. He's good for the league.
Yes.
Great coach and a great person. I know him for many years. And
Yeah.
he's a good friend of mine.
He definitely coaches them up really well. You know, all the guys are respectful, and they're, I mean, obviously talented too.
Can't say enough good things about Bull.
And he loves baseball.
Loves
he
baseball.
loves baseball.
He's a great guy.
Dave, another team still alive is the Foothills Christian Knights.
Yes.
Although they were sent into the elimination portion of the bracket on Friday, falling to San Pasquale 10-6. Bailey Lewis and Kip Familero had a couple of RBI each. The Knights beat Fallbrook 5-2 in their playoff opener, and guess who had the win on the mound? Trevor Smallwood, the senior, had a complete game, and senior Chris Stollard, if you will, drove in a pair of runs and with a double in the Foothills 3-run fourth to overcome a 2-1 deficit against the Warriors. And FCHS is going to come back and play on Saturday morning, and they'll either have to beat Fallbrook or San Diego Academy. I didn't get the final on that game on Friday. In order to get another shot at the Golden Eagles and a title game berth, they would need to win twice in order to make it to Saturday's 3:30 final at UCSD. The Knights, they still got a big chance.
Absolutely, and I wanted to shift over to the folks in Pine Valley that we sometimes tend to forget that are red hot. The Red Hawks from Mountain Empire, 22-8 over Calvary Christian in the desert. Wyatt Mann was 5 for 5 today with 3 RBIs. Trevor Elliott, the pitcher, 5 2/3 innings pitched with 14 strikeouts.
Wow.
Trevor is now the tops in California and 8th in the nation with 134 Ks.
He's a junior, so
He's a junior?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
impressive.
interesting. They beat Calvary Christian in that game today. Blow them out. Those teams both finished 5-1 in the regular season in league. So I think that leaves no doubt as to who was the best team in league this year.
Well, not just that, but 134 strikeouts. I mean, this kid, I told him myself, we had an article up about 2 weeks ago, and this kid just come out of nowhere, and only a junior. He also was, his father tapped the coach, Coach Chris Nolan, and said, can you please take my son out? He tied his record, his dad's high school record of 17 Ks, and I think he did it in a jokingly way, but he looked pretty serious from what I understand. And Trevor got a laugh about it, but I mean, the kid is definitely got a huge future ahead of him.
Yeah.
Dave, I'll touch a few more stats from that big game today. Wyatt Mann, you mentioned Wyatt Mann, Wyatt Aguiar, 5 RBIs in that game, and Jacob Nolan, the coach's son, went 3 for 3 with 3 RBI. The Red Hawks have a game in hand now in that division, in Division 5, but
Wow.
over on the other side of the bracket, Tri-City Christian defeated San Diego Southwest. Now that sets up Calvary Christian will face Calvin Christian in a PA announcer's nightmare, it sounds
Holy
like,
cow.
in an elimination game with
No
the winner facing Mountain Empire next Tuesday. Calvin opened the playoffs with a play-in win over Lemon Grove-based Liberty Charter. The teams meet again Thursday if necessary. The title game is Saturday at noon at UCSD. All right, thanks again to senior Josh Oedewaldt,
Thank you. Appreciate
senior TC Simmons,
you.
both
Thank
of
you,
the
guys.
Santana Sultans. Wow, big things coming this week with the Sultans. We'll be right back. The H12 Prep Baseball Report. Visit the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Get lessons from top local instructors. Use our team workout and cage facility specials, newly renovated, for baseball and softball. Plus, have your performance metrics analyzed using patented technology in HitTrax. That's the H12 Sports Academy off of Old Highway 80 in El Cajon. Call Scott Hoppy Hopgood at 619-328-1412. That's the H12 Sports Academy in El Cajon. All right, we're back now to recap the rest of the playoffs, Dave. And joining us right now, a couple of El Cajon Valley Braves. We got senior Jesus Favela and junior Greg Sanchez. Dave, the Braves were up against it again in the Grossmont Valley League season. We talked about it last week, a brutal 15-game league schedule, but hey, these guys were rewarded for their 4-2 non-league start. Remember, at the beginning of the season, the Braves were the talk on East County sports that first week or two, and they ran up against a pretty tough Tri-City Christian squad in a 10-0 loss to open up the playoffs. But over on Madison Avenue, where we don't necessarily measure success in the win column, I give you this. In all of those games that the Braves played against comparable opposition, similar teams in their Division 5 playoffs, they outscored them 82-10.
Wow. Isn't that impressive?
That's pretty crazy.
What do you have to say about that, Jesus?
I'm pretty sure because I'm really pumped for our team that always get all these runs. Like, we always are run supported. Like, when we get a rally going, we get it going. We never give up towards the end. Like, we've always been also that late in the team. So, like, we always come up, catch up. We always don't give up without a fight.
Yeah,
so,
we're always fighting to the end.
So what happened in this last playoff game? Because it looks like it was the opposite this time. You guys actually started the game with a lead, and I mean it appeared like you were going to have a lead, and then all of a sudden it went downhill. I mean, what did you see on the field? I mean, you were there. Was it some bad throwing errors? I know it wasn't for lack of trying, because I know that you guys play with a lot of heart, and you play really hard.
Honestly, I feel like we had those playoff jitterbugs, but like after the game kept on going, we kept fighting. We had opportunities, just couldn't come clutch with it. But we never gave up without the fight going. We'd always have to come in clutch, you know.
Yeah, Greg, you have a rubber arm, man. I mean, you threw over 65 innings this year, and sometimes defense let us down a little bit. I mean, I think that you deserved a better record, and I think that we'll see that next year, especially with this big year under your belt. But I think you got to be excited with you and Robert Verdugo as a pitching staff next year. How do you guys work with one another? He's definitely looking like one of the up-and-coming pitchers as well in the East County.
I was like, I would work together, like I was motivate each other, and like, hey, we got this, you got that,
Dude, just cheer our pitchers up.
Yeah,
that's what
like,
get
cheer each other up.
And I think that's a good point, Ramon. Verdugo, he definitely was. If you look at the stats too, he's one of the top in the rotation. So for next year, these youngsters, I think, are going to be definitely at the top of their league. I mean, you guys really have a shot at another playoff, and I think that you'll do much better because you'll be more seasoned. You got another year under your belt, more mature. And how about you, Jesus? Where are you heading? I mean, what's your plan? You're a senior right now. You just want to graduate, but what are the plans athletically and academically at this point?
Athletically, I'm always trying to play ball. I'm gonna keep playing ball all the way to college. I'm keeping my options open. I've been talking to a couple coaches, some in San Fran, some in Arizona, just keeping it wide open. And academically, just first go to junior college, finish my 2 years, then probably transfer to like a university. My dream school is Oregon State, or I could probably, if I really want to go to Arizona, I'll probably go to ASU, U of A, Arizona. Just keep it wide open.
Now, as far you mentioned JC's, anything locally that you want to try as a walk-on?
Grosemont and Mesa I've been talking to the most, because all my friends are going to Grosemont too, like from other schools, from like Cedro, from other like pretty competitive schools. And we're all going to go to Grosemont, and I'm really excited if I do go to Grosemont because I just want to be that walk-on player. Like, always throw my heart out for the team. Like, no matter what, always keep it going.
Well, if it's anything like you played this year and the way you've encouraged the rest of the players, I mean, even the coach called on you to pitch, you went to pitch. If he called you to play catcher, you play catch. I mean, being versatile like that and having the heart that you play with, I think that you're going to be successful wherever you land. And I know that you were also... Real quick, I want to touch on that where you were speaking with Scott Hopgood from H12 Sports Academy to work with you before you open up your options. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. He gave me that. I've been trying to talk to him. Well, I've been talking to him. We've been like scheduling, trying to find a day to meet so we can work together with our mechanics and hitting. Because like you said, he's a very good person. I trust you for that. Yeah, hopefully he can get me somewhere also.
Perfect. Well, good luck to you. And like we've talked about, the young pitching for you guys, that's going to be definitely something that you'll have going for you. And, as Ramon touched on, I mean, to score that many runs and to still have some loss, I think you can turn those around and be a competitive team next season.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, you think about it, Greg, you guys had some losses this year that just by one run. I think some of the exciting games that you had, and remember the game against your buddies now, the Lincoln Hornets, because you guys met them Jesus, a few times over the last couple of years. In fact, you guys met them at Petco Park one time, if you remember, and we'll talk about their trip to Petco Park in a moment or two. But well, I think one of the other highlights was that was the GMC semifinal against the Hornets, and an exciting finish, and you guys almost pulled it off. I mean, what happened in the end of that game? I mean, we were just one step away, runners in scoring position, and what happened on that final play?
Well, had the bases loaded, and then I found the pitch that I wanted, hit it to third, but.
Hit it to third. I heard it was a shot.
It was a shot to third. Yeah, it was a shot to third. But
Yeah.
He reacted and he caught it. I don't know. They just reacted.
It's baseball being baseball.
And there you go, Dave. I mean, that's how close some of these games were. And I talked about some of the problems that the Valley League has and the Braves. It's not so much about socioeconomics like people want to portray it. It's about the limited roster. I mean, we're sitting right next to one of the most powerful schools right down the street in Granite Hills. We know that of their success in baseball. And the Braves have more of a limited area, too, to select. You talk about some of the stars on the Braves, and you look at how they perform. You look at Jesus' career. These guys have put up some serious numbers. The team as a whole has hit over 300. It's just the pitching depth is a little shallow, and the bench is a little shallow, and that makes it a little tough on Coach Clifton Thomas. I mean, even his coaching bench is a little shallow. You remember the game that Coach Cliff was ejected. We couldn't finish the game. It's a mandatory suspension, and rightfully, the CIF decided, hey, there's no suspension for Coach Cliff because that day there wasn't a second coach. We have a limited coaching staff at the Braves, and he was reinstated appropriately. And these are the challenges that the Braves face, not so much what is portrayed, I think, in the media.
And while we're touching on that, could you speak on that, Jesus, about what happened in that game after the game with West Hills, and something I think that you don't normally see from an opponent's team, and that's that the coach from West Hills came over and had a little speech, if you will, with you guys, and explained actually how hard he thought you played and how much heart that team had.
Well, that coach from us, he's a very close friend of Cliff. He was his old travel ball coach. So he always each time we play him, he always gives a speech how Cliff is an amazing player. He always throws his heart out. And like you said about the game, we didn't have some good calls the whole game. Cliff, he backed us up like he always is. We're like his kids. He always backs us up no matter what. He doesn't want us to get he doesn't want to have a bad game all because of one person. He wants it to be an even game. Even the coach said, the West Hills coach, he was his team wasn't ready. We had more heart of the game. We could have won if we had sight of the calls too. But it turned out it didn't go as well. Like he said though, you guys have plenty of passion, heart. You guys could honestly do so good this year, and we use that as momentum.
Good old Mickey D. He's definitely he is one of the older coaches, almost a legend, if you will, in the Grossmont Conference. So anything coming from him, I definitely would take that to heart.
Sure, Coach Mickey Deutschman is who we're talking about, of West Hills Wolfpack, and hey, those were competitive league games, so I think that's what I'm talking about. I mean, the games against West Hills, the games against Mount Miguel. You had to know going in, Greg, that you guys were going to be competitive, and those were the league games that you had a chance to break through. Maybe next year is, I guess, what we can say, but talk about those close finishes.
Yeah, it was so close. I don't know to explain all of it, but honestly, I don't know what to say, but
they were honestly just close games.
It's just a close game. We could have won.
We could win. There's not much to talk about, but at the same time, we could have won these games.
One of those. There's not much to talk about, but I'm sure that Coach Cliff talked about it for days afterwards. On what we could do right, and not so much
to improve.
Because Cliff's job is, of course, as a motivator, because it is tough when we're on a long losing streak like this. But I think it's also okay to point out the fact that, hey, we lost this game, and here's what we can do right to win. Not an attitude of let's tough luck. Let's get them next time.
And how about Greg? Would you like to touch on the last 10 games of the season? The addition of Christian Vasquez transferring over from Grossmont. What did he bring to the table?
He was a big help in our team. Like we needed him real good. Like he helped us out in the infield and hitting too. And,
expand on that more because to me, Dave explained it so wonderfully last week. He comes in from Grossmont and immediately is talking up how proud he is to join El Cajon Valley and contribute to this program. And you as a veteran have seen this thing, I would say, grow. I mean, 3 straight playoff appearances, I think that speaks volumes. And Christian looks like he wants, rather than being maybe a part of a powerhouse program where he's just a cog, or he could be instrumental. He looks like a great player. Here he has a chance not only to impact the team but also impact players in the future because he's going to be around for 2 more years.
He brought fire into us. Like he kept on giving us. He was like another one of those powerhouses. We brought him in. He was like an impact person. He wanted to be part. Our coach always talks about the process, trust the process. He wanted to be part of the process of El Cajon going, starting from the bottom, and then we all, rebuilt so much. So, he brought in so much, and we brought him in like family automatically. Because each person we bring in, they're like family, like another brother to us. So we just bring him in.
And that's something that I hate to say it's a rarity socially in society these days, but for a kid of that age, and that kind of candor to bring over to your squad after coming from a Grossmont Foothillers team, that was a powerhouse and really did. He was talking about how he embraced you guys as family as well. And for a kid that age to mature like that, I think that speaks volumes. And I think the quote by Coach Clifton was, with that kid, he said, the sky's the limit. He's the whole real deal. He's the cheerleader on the bench. He's willing to help you guys on wherever you need help, and he'll play wherever he's assigned to play. So to have a kid like that, I think that the El Cajon Valley Braves as a whole are fortunate to have him.
Yep.
Well, Dave, I mentioned the game at Petco Park, and I think that had to be one of the highlights for you guys. Now, Jesus, you'd been there before when we faced the Lincoln Hornets, and that was a great game against Lincoln on that day. And this one got a little bit out of hand. The Monarchs are a pretty good team, but it was close early. I mean, it was a scoreless game in the third, and I thought Jesus might get the start in that one. Greg, you got the start. And I think you only got tagged with 1 earned run in that game. You made a miscue there, but then another big error behind you. The Monarchs got 6 runs, but after that, we still kept it competitive. Just a great night. What was it like standing on the mound at Petco Park to start the game?
Everything's perfect. You see everything,
It's like what you dream as a little kid.
Yeah, I dreamed of that, just playing on Petco Park. It was the best. Best experience.
Me from the shortstop perspective, I felt like I was like Khalil Green, bagging him.
There is a picture that Tammy Ryan, our photographer, took of Jesus throwing a ball. It kind of looked like that. It kind of looked like one of those Jeter throws in the hole. Right, great picture of that, and that was just great. Hey, I got a quiz for you guys. We were talking with your coach, Coach Clifton Thomas, out there, and I saw Coach play, and I still watch him play. I get a chance to play with him now and then, a little slow pitch. But I got a quiz for you guys. He was one of the best players, quite honestly, in Grossmont Conference history. You didn't know how humble he is. I mean, I was embarrassing him out there, and we talked about it. But Coach Thomas has the second most stolen bases in one season in San Diego section history, the most in the Grossmont Conference. Jesus, how many stolen bases did Cliff Thomas have in 2006?
I think he tied with Eric Chavez with 56, correct?
And what do you say, Greg? Do you have a guess on that?
I say 52 or something.
Okay, Dave, do you have a guess?
56.
Okay, you both went 56. Officially in the CIF record book, it's 50, so all you went over. But I think maybe he's been talking himself up a little bit, but let me tell you about this incredible season that Coach had. 50 stolen bases for a team that went 1-26. Could you imagine? I mean, we lost the 19 games this year, but basically he just got on and stole every time he bat. He hit .575 that year with 6 triples and 6 home runs. And here's the kicker. He had a 15-game hitting streak to end the season. And they were on a long losing streak because they were in league, as we've talked about. This has been going on for ages where we, lose the league games. And Dave, I may have overstepped my bounds last week with some things that I said about how the league should structure.
Oh, no, I agree.
But I just think that with the 6 teams in the Valley Circuit, they should play a head-to-head, 10 games, let the Braves get out there and play some more of those competitive teams that, maybe we could beat up on a little bit, but also find some competitive games that are going to help us be ready for those postseason games, because I think maybe the momentum a little bit just isn't there. You go up against a team like Tri-City Christian. I mean, they were beatable. They lost today in the playoffs.
And that's absolutely correct, and and I concur with what Ramon is speaking on. That creates more of a better strength in schedule. You got that better strength in schedule, so that's going to raise your competitiveness as far as the CIF looks at it. And instead of playing the same team 3 times, which I absolutely agree, and I went off on a tangent myself last week. Got a little heated about it, but it's just I'm passionate about it as well, that maybe if enough people that are involved in this will hear about it, and maybe we can change some of that to where we're only playing that same league team twice. There is absolutely no reason to play them 3 times. Let's throw somebody in there that, whether you win or lose, at least it teaches you something else and maybe raises your value, if you will.
It's like like you say about the 3 games. Like if we could use those other 4 games to play another, say again Lincoln, we play them another competitive. We keep them going. Then we have a competitive game. Unlike if we play against the league, it's everyone's usually siding with the other team, and we're the underdog almost. But it's if we were to play these other teams, then we'd be able to get looked at more. We'd be able to have a competitive game.
Sorry, Jerry.
Like I said, Dave, it's not so much about these veterans. The numbers speak for themselves. How well this team performed, especially Jesus' season offensively. I mean, it matches up with some of the better players in the Grossmont Conference statistically. It just has to do with the numbers a little bit, I think. So. Let's touch on some of these other playoff teams, if you will, that wrapped up play this week. First, I want to mention the El Capitan Vaqueros. Dave, I gave them no chance of making the postseason, giving their record last week. And the power ratings, I can't figure out the CIF power ratings, but they got into the playoffs, and after I'd counted them out, they earned that berth probably on the strength of schedule, because they finished actually ahead of Steel Canyon. And we talked about the record disparity. So Steel Canyon had a tremendous record, almost opposite the overall record of the El Capitan Vaqueros, yet El Capitan Vaqueros in that super tough Grossmont Hills League makes it gets ousted, and El Cap did make it in. However, they had 14 guys on the roster this season. You know what that's like, guys, to have that short roster. So they end up losing at Sage Creek 3-2.
We go back to El Capitan's history, especially in baseball, all you have to say is one last name and everybody remembers El Capitan, and that's victory. That's all you got to say. Enough said. El Capitan has been one of the most competitive baseball squads, JV and varsity-wise, for several years. And I think that they still have the talent now, but strength in numbers, you can't throw, same thing as in football, you can't throw 40 guys out there, and then right up the street you have 98. It is what it is, but what can you do about it?
I don't know if you saw, I think 2 weeks ago, they had a special on ESPN, 30-minute program on Matt LaChappa and his commitment with the San Diego Padres, his one-year contract that gets renewed every year by the Padres, as Matt enjoys his life, and we remember how great a player he was
Yes.
as well at El Capitan High School. Dave, also want to mention the Valhalla Norsemen were eliminated in the playoff round, and should mention also the opponent of these guys we talked about, Monte Vista. They lost a playoff heartbreaker 3-2 this week. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the H12 Prep Baseball Report this week. I'd like to thank Carl Danielson and the fine folks at Granite Hills High here for the last few weeks after we left over there, H12. Great facilities over there, but we've had a great time with Carl as well and all the fine folks at the Granite Hills Multimedia Department. We also want to thank our sponsors, Retro Sports, Nicolosi's Italian Restaurant, Al's Sports Shop. All right, great season, Dave. What can you say about the fun we've had with some of these guys this year on the show?
Well, I think each and every team had their two players, or even we started off with one player with Foothills Christian, but everybody had different pros and cons, and they made, you guys actually are the ones that made the show, and it's been probably the best thing I've done in my 44 years of being on this planet. And actually, one year, it's my first year, my father, Bill Dickens, had been covering East County sports for over 47 years. Ramon has at least 30 years plus. So for my 1 year to be able to experience everything I did with all of you on the field, off the field, and here in the studio has been a dream come true, really. I mean, I really appreciate talking to you guys at night, whether it be texting or a phone call. I really have appreciated it, and regardless of the record, you guys have been fantastic, and working with us so we can make you look better, and that's actually why we're doing the whole thing in the first place. And I also wanted to, since we are closing out, a couple of our sponsors, a newer sponsor that we just added, American General Construction. They're also going to be joining us for football as well. And once again, Carl Danielson from Granite Hills has been just spectacular by allowing us to use his facility. And let's not forget about Ramon Scott. He has been the backbone of East County sports this season.
Well, I think you well said about everything you said about the players that joined us in here. We'd like to thank, of course, Greg Sanchez, Jesus Favela, and of course T.C. Simmons and Josh Oedewaldt of the Santana Sultans for also joining us this week on the H12 Baseball Report. Hey, Dave, we got another week of playoffs still to go, so be sure to log on to eastcountysports.com, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the results from the playoffs for the next week. See you next year.